Hey there folks, so today at Mom's house we are going to be following the example for a Brita Aquaponics system, literally using a Brita filter. That's why I say that. I will link the idea that I'm modeling my project after in the comments. Aquaponics is going to be a system where you rely on plant fertilization from the fish in the lower system, whatever type of system you're using, to feed the plants in the top system, whatever it is that you're using, for your plant material on the top. And I originally started this, I got all the materials together I needed because I felt like this was going to be something that I could do for my furry friends. My plant is catnip. They already ate the first batch of my plants while I was trying to nurse them back to life. They weren't in great shape from the store, so we had a little bit of a snafu there, and I am going to just get to work building the system. I will explain why along the way, and this is actually going to look a little bit different than the model that I am following, and we're going to cover that as well. I want to continue the theme of critical thinking, talking about systems within the realm of sustainability. And before, I'd previously mentioned, the ability to grow your own plants, herbs, vegetables, whatever that is. And I felt like this was going to be a really good example originally for how to do that. And we'll get a little bit more into that later. So I'll show you the basics of how it works because it still models the concepts. But this one, before I even started, really getting to the practicality of putting this together for you folks to show you how. I hit some bumps in the road, and I did some more research once the cats tore apart the plants and looking into different systems, even though I already had the materials for this one. So I'll go ahead and mimic the model, but I think that we need to continue with the SWOT analysis for critical thinking, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, potential threats to the system when you're talking about projects and how they relate to sustainability, as well as the concentric circles model that we had previously talked about. You have the three spheres of sustainability. You have environmental, you have social, you have economical. In this case, it would be the environment holds society, which then participates in the economic sphere. That's a direct result of society. And so because this one is more on the environmental end, I think this one can also have a lot to do with harnessing natural resources or natural processes to create potentially high-value, sustainable projects. I'm going to go ahead and start by admitting that this is not one. Once I did some more research on it, of course, after I purchased all the materials for it, so I'll show you those because honestly I'm going to return them and probably put some money into a different, far more sustainable project. We'll talk about that as we get going, but I will show you all the process so that you can have a general idea, get it working so that you all can have some idea there. This one was the video, I chose this example because it was the easiest to follow as far as understanding the process and what's going on here in a way that related to something that I could do within my household. And I originally thought with materials that I'm already working with. So I snagged this off Marketplace for a few bucks. I went ahead and put some tape, as you can see, to protect the plastic from cracking. I need a 1/2 inch hole, so we are revisiting the 1/2 inch drill bit. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. Let me get some solid ground here. Again, if you're not familiar with power tools, now is probably not the time to try. Please get some help if you need that. Safety first, right? So I'm just going to go into the corner here, make sure I have a good hold and fingers out of the way. Seeming to crack a little bit, so I'm going to be very careful. That is why I put the tape down. I was concerned about working with such a hard plastic, not very malleable. and we'll see where we get. I may have to pinch it off a little sooner than anticipated, or I just may go in through the bottom, but I really want to keep use of this protective layer of tape. There we go. Didn't blow that. It was a little more than I bargained for. And then this is from a previous project. If you all remember the rainwater recapture video, I am just repeating because I know that the diameter is accurate and it's exactly what I need. Let's see if I can kind of pinch this through to the bottom here. And this will help pass our water pump from the top chamber to the bottom chamber to oxygenate the bottom, keep that flowing. And then you'll see how it kind of helps bring it back up to the top if this is something that you choose to do a different system or on a larger scale. I'm going to have to go back and widen it a bit. Makes me nervous. Don't love that. So I'm just going to go ahead and try to get this wedged out. Not something I recommend, because that could have easily cracked and just ruined the whole thing. But now I do have enough room to get the tubing all the way through. Is requiring a little bit of force because, as I mentioned, it is not as malleable as I would like for it to be. I also took some extras from the hose. Right, these are about, a couple inches, and then I cut them straight down the middle, so these serve as kind of a brace for that top chamber. I'll show you where I put those. One in the front on the right side and one in the back on the left side. And then I'm going to leave this off. I'm going to go get the water hose and turn that on so that I can wash the rock that's going to need to go in the top as well as the bottom. I'll be right back. Alright folks, welcome back. So I've been washing my water and my rocks for some time just to make sure that the system is totally clean. I've left this spigot running, and you seem to be getting a lot less precipitate as we move on. So that was part of it, is that you want to make sure that that's plenty cleaned out. So while it's running, I'm also going to take some water, clean the top of the system, just to ensure that everything's nice and clean and we won't have any foreign contaminants in here to account for. Okay, so peeling the tape off the top as well that we used during construction to keep it from cracking. Keep that going as well. There we go. Alright, now this was the lid of the filter. We'll get there later if we even have to use it at all. I do not believe the model requires that we do so. So let me go ahead and just going to scoop some out, and I'm going to put some rock in this top tray here. Now this was about 2 pounds of aquarium gravel rock, and I stuck with that theme because I wanted the fish to be as comfortable as possible, right? And then this way we can get some coverage, and I can clip off any posing that's unnecessary. So let me just dump that out of the top for ease, and you can see my bumpers kind of hold that replacement up just a little bit higher. I'll go ahead and shut off the spigot and the hose. I don't want to waste water, so I'll be right back with you. Alright, so I actually forgot a step while I still had the water on, so I'm going to revisit that. I went with this catnip grass from the top. I always find it to be outrageously overpriced, so I wanted to use that for the system and see how we did. So let me go turn the water back on, and I'll clean the soil off. You need to make sure that any growing medium is completely removed, and it's just the plant and its roots. So I'll be back. Plenty of the work being done, right? Let's just kind of topple it upside down. I kind of trust my ability to handle with care as much as possible. And we want to break all these roots off as much as possible as well. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse this off where I plan to keep the soil for now while we break that off the roots, right? Just kind of rub very gently. I don't want to tear them. I just want to loosen them up. Pretty tightly packed in there. And I'm not sure if I'll speed this process up or if I might turn you guys off. I don't want the laptop to get too hot while I break these up. Trying to apply as much water as possible so the water can break it up and I don't run any risk of pulling it apart too harshly myself. Okay. There we go. And it's coming slowly but surely, so I think I will cut it off for just a little bit so the laptop doesn't get too warm and you guys can keep up with the rest of the process. Hey folks, so it was getting a bit too hot for Mom out on this side of the sunshine, and I was a little worried about my laptop, so I cut a little bit off of a clip where I talked to you all about washing all of the soil off of my little green friend here for my furry friends. So if there's a part that doesn't make sense, that's why I was trying to find a good position and I showed a little bit too much of my neighborhood. I'm just not really cool with that online. So I went ahead and clipped that part out. But so the idea is when you get the potted plant, you need to wash all of the dirt off of it before introducing it to your system. I also recommend, and I'll update the materials in the description that I've already drafted. I had some pea pebble that I mixed. I cleaned it and I mixed it with the aquarium gravel because I was not aware that there is such an intense volume of root structure to catnip. There's a lot of roots there. So it took a really long time to get all that washed off, but I do have just the roots in here. I don't want to dig them up. I kind of want to keep them protected, actually. So we may just have to use our imagination a little bit there. And then I want to make sure that it's good and covered as well, since that's not really exposed. Here, I can show you all a little bit of the root poking out. Let me see if I can tilt this without soaking the computer. You can see a little poke of root right there. That's what I'm grabbing. So we want to make sure that all of that's covered. Here's another little poke of root. You all can see that little guy. So they are brown. I washed them plenty. Not sure what's going on with that. I guess that's just how it is. So I wanted to go over a couple of things with you all. So I got the air pump that is going to go into this tube. Let me lift up again, or maybe I'll just tilt down. It's going to go into this tube right here, and I'm going to clip that off so that it can kind of pump back up into the rock system where the plant is. So it's going to get fed to the bottom. You can see the black tube on, it's on my right, this tube right here. And I'll feed that in, and I'll show you all that process as well once I locate an electrical outlet. I don't want to go back into where it was very, 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 very bright. So I'll go ahead and get this opened up, and I'll talk to you all about some more of the steps as well as the system. So the idea is that, this may not be something that you immediately need in your household, but as far as, a diversity of species, some of them you can eat. Some of these systems work with catfish, tilapia, edible fish. And then you can also grow like various herbs and plants with the system that you're feeding. So I think that this is something that is beneficial to people, not really necessarily me exactly, but this could be beneficial to a lot of people in a lot of places. is a system like we have talked about before, you know, that kind of helps with your buying power, saving money on things that you can do for yourself, systems that are self-contained that you can create for yourself, fairly inexpensive. I'll put the price for everything in here too for this system. And I think that could really make an impact for a lot of folks to be able to do something themselves. I do want to continue to do this cat grass. It's something that my cats love. I have no idea why it's expensive as it is. So I'll at least keep that part going. That's the part that does apply to me. I will say that a big weakness of this particular system is that as I dug further into research, I was just going to put a beta fish in the bottom, just like the original poster whose example I followed did, but it seemed like what I was reading was that you need to have at least 2 fish per plant, and beta fish cannot go in with other fish first and foremost. And then the second principle is that I don't want to take a living thing into my home that is not going to be able to survive the system that I'm putting it into. So I'll go over the materials that I got with you all, but we have no fish. My child's a little disappointed because they told her we were going to be getting fish, but technically, it seems through reading and some more research on the topic that you really should allow the system to run for about 2 weeks, even for it to be sustainable for the fish as well as the plants as an environment. So I didn't want to just dump a beta fish in here for you guys to see the process and then have the poor little guy die a few days later. Like, that's not really cool. That doesn't really sit with me. And even just having 1 plant for illustrative purposes, I would need 2 fish. And so I don't want to go get 2 fish and then have nowhere to put them, and then have to tear the whole system apart anyway. So this one's going to be a little more for illustration, but I do want you all to understand that as part of this process. This is a little more exemplary about the basic principles of aquaponics and the idea that the fish waste is brought up through an air pump system. There are a couple that work without air pumps and electricity, so that's important too. That could be a potential strength of a different type of system, and it recirculates to feed the water, the nutrient-rich water, to the plants on the top sector, and it also, the fish poop essentially works as fertilizer. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. That's how you can do this with rocks, and then the oxygenation is returned to the fish at the bottom. So it's a very symbiotic system, which I think would be a great strength if this were something that I was actually going to be able to implement. So I got everything together. I got the idea to talk to you guys about this, and then I just kind of had to hit the pause button because I don't really consent to bringing a fish into my house just to kill it. So I'm not really okay with that, but I already had everything, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cover some of the basics with you and some things that I felt were important. So a 2-system container, top and bottom, plenty of rock that is clean to go on the top as well as the bottom system. The 1.5-inch tubing that I drilled with a paddle bit to give me that diameter. I put tape down to prevent the cracking. You'll see what we do with this in a moment. I actually already have my water pump out, and the tubing is somewhere around here. So I got the fish, food, and then I got a water conditioner because I was under the impression that just a few drops of that would help the fish. And then I, as you all know, take living things in my space very seriously. So I got him some plants so he felt a little bit more at home, and I was going to see how he did with that and then maybe get him some more, or she, I don't know. And actually, let me look for the tubing that was supposed to come with this because that is going to be essential for the system. I don't know, maybe I could just plant it in the bottom and see what happens, but that seems like a really bad idea to mix electricity and water. So let me check it out and see what they have to say, and then I'll get it going and be right back with you folks. Alright folks, so here's the end of the process, and I'll lift you up so that you can see a little bit of what I've got going on. It's kind of a mess here, but I actually had to strip some cable wiring that we had around the house. This pump did not come with tubing, and so there's a hashtag reuse for everybody for the day. So I'm going to feed this into, let me lift you all up for just a second, into this tube over here. If you can see that, that was the original one that we installed so that we could have a method to kind of connect the two. And so I'm just fishing it down. Bad mom joke intended. I'm just fishing it down into the tube, but not all the way. And I'm going to go ahead and plug this in to get power to it. And you all can see, I'm lean you over a little. Let's see if that gets you a good view. Let's see here. Hang on just a second. I think I need both hands to make. Alright folks, so I found some tubing for wire that I had to strip. The pump that I mentioned previously actually did not come with the pump, so buyer beware if you do that. So it's connected to my pump here, which is plugged in, and I'm going to fish it into the tube. Let me see if I can get you all a good view of the tube. Remember the one right here that we made a little hole for earlier? So I'm just going to fish that. Let me see if I can prop it up so you all can see it more. I'm going to fish that into the bottom. And then you can see, I'll give you 30 seconds of tranquil water bubbling right there. And that, my friends, is how, with an aquaponics system, you have your fish. Ours are imaginary in this case because Mom loves living things a little too much to bring a fish home in a system that I feel like will not sustain the fish very well. But hopefully this helped you guys get a little bit of the idea. And it just kind of bubbles up and it keeps those roots moisturized. There you go. And then like we had talked about before, there's more of like a symbiotic relationship between the fish, whatever species you pick, especially could be a significantly more high value project for someone if you chose to use an edible fish like tilapia, catfish, some of the bigger systems seen. I'll go ahead and link those. I mean, this is part of sustainability, is building projects and realizing, you know, hey, this thing was really time consuming, or this thing didn't go as expected, and, you know, making those modifications, critically evaluating your systems, and saying, hey, what's the objective here? You know, we keep talking at Mom's house about inclusivity. Let me put it down a little bit so y'all can still see it bubbling. Talking about inclusivity and making projects that people can utilize in their daily lives for little to no money, increase their buying power for things that support their values, rather than focusing only on the necessities. That's really important to me, to be able to spread a message where we can help people, you know, have the knowledge, have the tools that projects, things like this exist that can, you know, kind of help, I guess, deepen your homestead principle if that's what you're looking for, something that's a little more self-reliant than always having to turn to Amazon, Target, you know, whatever it is to get you what you need. So again, a quick recap. Typically these systems, the ones for the beta fish at least that I researched because I looked into it a lot before bringing another living thing into the house, they'll need about 2 weeks to run. I'll post some additional links, like I said, on various ideas. Maybe, you know, you like the concept, even though its implementation failed considerably. And then I'll hold it up so you can see it at the end. It really helped me to see some more visuals, and I was pretty disappointed because this was something that I really wanted to incorporate, but I was worried about the scale, right? That's another thing that we talk about in scale, or our small scale decisions, able to make larger scale impacts. You know, maybe whatever it is that I do in my own home can make an impact on the environment at large. That's really important as well. And here, choosing to go with a smaller scale project really hurt my ability to put actual fish in here. From the reading, again, like I said, as a recap, you need about 2 fish per plant, and you can't put 2 beta fish together. I don't feel like this is a comfortable enough amount of space for goldfish. So I had some ethical concerns there. I'm sorry, you know, I put on the channel description and that kind of well, actually I don't think it's on there anymore, but I've kind of talked about it before. You know, I'm more of a chewy mom. I like the crunchy things like this, but when it comes to the empirical evidence-based stuff, I like to stick to the rules, and I don't feel like animals or other living beings should have to suffer because I'm trying to illustrate a point. So I really hope that you guys got, you know, kind of what I was getting at here. why it's important, strengths, and obviously we covered a lot of weaknesses here with this particular system. And so I'll just kind of pick it up so that you all can see what we've got going on here. And the two-chamber system in the bottom is where the fish would go. The plants are positioned on the top. You've got gravel, bare roots, so they can kind of soak up all of those nutrients. I mean, it's still running. It's running quite nicely. It's almost adding insult to injury that I'm a little bummed out that I can't implement this. So maybe I'll try another one later and post that video for you guys as well. If all else fails, I think we at least demonstrated the main principle to me lately of sustainability, which is normalizing some practices and having conversations so that we can even just be a little more aware of our behaviors and how they affect the other spheres of sustainability instead of just, this gives you more buying power and more of an ability or a greater ability to participate in the economy in ways that align with your values, or, maybe this allows you to create room in your social spheres to spend more time and attention on things that matter to you, or, hey, maybe this helps people work together to provide for each other, or all of those things, and it's good for the environment, for the things that you get to reuse and not have to purchase. Maybe it's about conservation. Maybe it's about reusing the plentiful natural resources that are available to us, like in the rainwater capture. So I'm sorry that this one was kind of a bust, but I hope the effort counts for something. And, if all else fails, I want Mom's House to be a place where folks can come to you and everybody feels welcome and like they're included and considered and they have a seat at the table. So always got one open for you. I hope everybody's doing okay today, and as usual, eat something from the earth, drink plenty of water, get some sunshine, and if you can't find any sunshine, then be the sunshine. Have a good day, folks. And I'd also like to add that no fish, thankfully to extensive breeding, were harmed in the making of this project.